Thanks for subscribing and listening to the Clive Barker Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to the imagination of Clive Barker. In this episode 190, Jose and I'm Ryan, we talk news, where you can get the Hellraiser Anthology comics, some Clive Barker acting alumni are cast in new movies, and a Hellraiser brownie recipe. Stay tuned. Well, thanks for joining us again. This is episode 190 of the Clive Barker Podcast, where we're going to be catching up on news from the Reef.
Yeah, we're getting close to 200, huh?
Yeah. Well, and if you count the all the special stuff that we've done and audio commentaries, we're well past that. But in just the numbered episodes, we're not quite there yet. We're getting close.
Yeah, and as we record this, it's Saturday morning. It's 9 a.m. So I have to apologize because I think I have hiccups, and we kind of gave ourselves some time to let the hiccups pass, but they're not going away. So I may be having some hiccups during the show, which I apologize for.
Yeah, well, these things happen. I mean, how many episodes have we had where somebody had a cold or the flu or something too?
Oh yeah, definitely half a dozen of those.
Yeah. But I guess going into the news, well, no, we didn't introduce ourselves. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Joe. How you doing?
I guess for people who are episode 190 is their first episode. There you go. But yeah, so Hellraiser Anthology, the comics. The first one had a pretty good run, but the second one, it feels like just as it was announced and put up for sale, the real Clive Barker website went down. So I don't think that it had a whole lot of time to sell, and I think there are some people were able to order it, and other people were able to get it at like conventions, before the pre-order time, but. But other than that, I think that it's been hard to find. But now it has turned up, and I believe these are Ben Mears copies. It's turned up on Tom Holland's Terror Time. And,
right, the website.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a link in the show notes to that, but I'm just checking here really quick to see, because this is a little bit of old news, so I want to see if it's still available.
Yeah, so Volume 1... they have available a trade paperback for $14.99. Damn hiccups. And Volume 2 is in hardback for $25.
Yeah. So it's still there, still available. And we've had a lot of comments from people ever since Volume 2 came out, like, wishing that they could get that one because they missed it. And so if you don't have that one, or if you want to get the whole set, I mean, you can get both of them together. So that's pretty cool. So head over. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's got comic book stories written and illustrated by a bunch of amazing writers and artists. It even has like Nicholas Vince's story about the origin of the Chatter, and I'm not talking about the first one that he published.
Look-see.
Yeah, look-see. I'm talking about the actual revisitation of the Chatterer story, where he really went deep into the story to create this very striking, very, very bold story about how Chatterer began, how he was a beautiful young man, and then how he ended up being that disfigured Cenobite.
Yeah. So that one's really good. I think that these are also the least censored of all the Hellraiser comics.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And they're kind of rare because they're self-published by Clive's company, Seraphim. So check it out if you can get them. These are some of the best Hellraiser comics you can get. So definitely.
Yeah, they have amazing covers by Daniel Serra, and like I said, they're chock full of good stuff. And since they were not published by Marvel or Boom Comics Studios or any of those like comic book publishers, they could do whatever they wanted. So it gets pretty extreme in these stories sometimes. And Clive Barker created this very, very funny character called Pinocchio. There's a couple of stories of Pinocchio, the origin story of him, and then the special Christmas story, and it's just very, very. It's a must-have for people who are Hellraiser fans. I would say if you're a Hellraiser fan, get the Marvel comics, get the Scarlet Box, get the Leviathan documentary, and get these two things, and you have yourself a really neat Hellraiser collection.
Yeah, for sure. Dark, also on Clive Barker stuff on sale over at Dark Regions Press. So some rare stuff. It seems like not just things that they published, but books from other places.
Right.
So, and I'm going into it now because when we reported this, there were some of them that were sold out, but there was still a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I'm looking at the page right now. They still have, the Clive Barker Books of Blood Stealth Press signed and numbered slipcase hardcover. That one's going for $490. They have the Poseidon Press Weave World, again signed and numbered hardcover. That one's going for $270. It used to be going for $360, but now it's down to $270, so that's the sale price there. You can also buy some Imaginer volumes. They have a neat bundle for people who have to catch up, like I guess you, Ryan.
Yeah.
They have volumes 4 and 5 for $205.
I have 4, but I don't have 5 or 6.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you still have the Midnight Meat Train Special Definitive Edition. This one says it's selling for $9, but is this the real hardcover? No, the ebook is $9.
Oh, okay.
And you have the trade hardcover for $25. And they also have a similar deal for the body book. That includes the Body Politic and In the Flesh. You can pre-order the ebook for $9, or you can pre-order the paperback edition for $25. All the other editions, the limited, the deluxe, ultra lettered, ultra publisher's copy, blah blah blah, those are all sold out at this point. So if you find them, you'll have to find them on eBay or some other place like that. Yeah, and they have more stuff. They have Everville. Did that one come out yet? Because it's sometimes a little hard to keep track. But did the Everville Deluxe?
Yeah, I think that did come out.
Okay.
Yeah. And
then they also have a Sacrament edition, signed and limited special edition, and they still have one of those
the Last
Fiddle
Illusions.
Black.
Yeah.
A Fiddle Black Last Illusion. So they only made like 350 of those, I think.
Yeah.
It's not.
That when we've talked about that on the podcast, we had an episode about it. I mean, it's a really good edition, and it was we were skeptical when I think the first one of these they did was Cabal, and we were a little skeptical about it. It's like, well, we already have Cabal, but it's a really nice edition, and it wasn't.
It's a neat package,
and it wasn't that much money even when it first came out. I think it was only $50.
$40.
Yeah.
And now this one had 350 editions, hand numbered and signed. Actually, no, just hand numbered. And they have 4 copies left. So I don't know how many that if it sells out after these 4 copies are gone. I would probably say something like that because they only made 350. I'm sure most of these had been sold.
I wonder if all the ones that they had left went over to Dark Regions, after they did their sale for a while.
Yeah. And then I think pretty much everything else on that list is kind of sold out. They had some limited collectible bundles that are both sold out. They have one of those Screen Press Books of Blood sets that were signed and numbered. They're also sold out. And, everything else on that is kind of sold out.
Chiliad and First Tales and Maximilian Bacchus and...
Yeah, and the Scarlet Gospels and the Tapping the Vein signed with unique sketch hardcover. Those things are probably some of the first things to go.
Oh, and the Anniversary Thief of Always. That was a really good edition.
That was a neat edition.
One of my favorite of all of my collection, I think.
Right. And that was made totally in-house, right? With Vicky Barker and... Christian Francis, and they worked on that edition. So it's really awesome. You may be able to find copies of that when Clive Barker does a signing, like he did at Texas Frightmare Weekend.
Yeah.
You may still find some of those copies for sale, which I completely recommend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, but holy cow! I mean, it's so nice, and who knew that was a wraparound cover, for The Thief of Always? I don't think that it was put together that way on the original printing.
Right. I think it may have been, I don't know, the hardcover version I bought once from Dark Delicacies kind of has that. The thing is that it has the Clive Barker name in golden letters and then The Thief of Always on top of the artwork. Whereas this new anniversary edition didn't have any letters on top of the cover, so it was just a completely, but beautiful stuff. So, really, really recommend it. So Dark Press, go there and check it out if you're a collector. You have some good deals there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Dark Regions Press. Sometimes they also publish some, some limited edition stuff for Clive Barker, but in this case, they also are a reseller.
Yep.
So Craig Sheffer, this is Craig Sheffer, and you're listening to the Clive Barker broadcast. So Craig,
that's a good imitation.
So Craig Sheffer is going to be in a new horror movie. It was about a lighthouse, wasn't it?
Yes, I think he plays is it a writer that it's based off a supernatural novel co-written by Richard Chimzar and his son Billy. It's a movie directed by Gregory Lamberson. And
it's called Widow's Point.
Right. An author spends a weekend locked in a haunted lighthouse as a publicity stunt to promote his next book. Cut off from the outside world, he finds himself targeted by sinister forces. The film takes place in 4 different time periods. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Sounds like an interesting premise. I've always been a sucker for lighthouses.
Yeah.
I've always liked them. When I was a kid, I wish I could live in a lighthouse. So, let's see what they do with this. And it's got 4 different time periods. I'm sure they're going to be cutting back and forth between whatever happened in that place in the past and then back to the present. So it's great seeing Craig Sheffer get more work.
Yeah. So that's called Widow's Point, and we'll be watching out from that. I think. Oh, they haven't even started shooting yet. So it'll be a while before that's available.
It starts shooting this month.
And another Clive Barker alumni, Claire Higgins, has a new movie also coming out. And that is...
Heretics. Did I say that right? Or is it Heretics?
Heretics, yeah.
Yes, okay. So Heretics, where she plays this creepy nun, right? There's a woman gets convicted, and then she gets sent to this creepy sanctuary, creepy nunnery, and says the story follows innocent young Persephone is falsely accused and put on trial for her life. Her fate seems sealed except for the timely intervention of the mysterious Reverend Mother, that's Claire Higgins, offering her not just sanctuary but hope. For the Reverend Mother is the self-appointed leader of a small religious retreat, a secluded priory where her fellow sisters devote their lives to the Lord, seeking atonement for their pasts. But upon arrival, Persephone is plagued with terrifying visions and soon realizes that it's not salvation that awaits, but a battle for her very soul itself. And I've seen the trailer. I mean, did you see the trailer yet?
No, I didn't watch it yet. I meant to, but...
Okay, so the trailer is it's pretty creepy. I mean, it's very nice. There's a lot of production value into it, and it's got great lighting, great sets, and great special effects. I mean, it's kind of like from what I took out of it, it seems like one of those classic possession kind of, there's a priory and there's people there that have demons inside them or something. So they get the light up eyes, in the dark, and they get all that, climb up the walls and go into the ceiling and flip their head back to look at someone. It's kind of a classic possession thing. So seems to be very popular now.
And it's going to be out soon, I guess, because it's got a trailer already.
Right. So they have a trailer, and we put it on the blog post, and yeah. So it looks really good. And of course, Claire Higgins she could just play a Julia. Come on.
Yeah.
Now that she's doing horror movies again, I would love to see Claire Higgins be part of something that would more horror movies or just some sort of, I don't know what's going to happen to Hellraiser, but I wish that in the future, if there is another Hellraiser movie, man, wouldn't it be nice if they could get Claire Higgins to come in and be Julia again, reprise her role?
Yeah.
That would be awesome, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and she was serving Leviathan the last we saw her. I mean, there's no reason to think that just because she got sucked into the vortex of Leviathan or whatever that she's gone.
Yeah, she could always come back. I mean, the character could always come back, and I think that would be a great thing if they could do it. But at the same time, it's like whenever I think of another Hellraiser sequel, I just get really anxious about it. I mean, right. Judgment was good. Judgment was okay. But I just don't know. It would have to be really well done. And if they could bring Julia back, that would be amazing for me. I don't know.
Judgment was okay. No thanks to the Weinstein Company. I mean, the budget was really shoestring. And they did no promotion at all for it.
Yeah, so Claire Higgins in the Heddricks trailer. Yeah. So go check that out. And that actually looks very, very good.
And Heddricks with a K at the end.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
So she's a Reverend Mother. It's always great seeing her. I know she's done some conventions, I think, right? Yeah. I know that she's done some conventions in the past.
I've met her twice, I think.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then the Torturer. We've talked about the Torturer before, right? This is the Little Spark Films with Paul T. Taylor as the title character or like a prominent character in this short film based on Paul Kane's short story.
Yes, yeah. The Indiegogo is still going on. You still have about a couple of weeks, I think. Yeah. Let's see. How long do we have left here? 15 days left, and unfortunately, I hope this picks up a little more because they're still at $544 out of 10,000 for a flexible goal Indiegogo project. So I am going to contribute for this one as well.
And I have also, it's awesome to see something with all of these people who are friends of ours. We've had almost every person involved in this movie has been on our podcast. Paul Kane,
right?
Joe Manco from Little Spark Films, and Paul T. Taylor. So we really want to see this go. And so if you could, if you've been putting it off, maybe I think now is the time. Don't put it off until it's over. And I've done that. With crowdfunded stuff, I was like, I'll get to that later, and then it's too late.
You make a good point. So The Torturer, again, is a short story written by best-selling international author Paul Kane, shadow writer. It's featured in a collection of shorts titled Nail Biters, and Little Spark Films, located in Texas, have optioned the script from Mr. Paul Kane and signed on actor Paul T. Taylor to play the lead role of Andy Brooks. And boy, oh boy, does Andy Brooks get it in this short. Been able to read a copy of the script, and holy moly, the tagline for this on Indiegogo says it's going to be brutal. Yeah. So it is going to be brutal. So that's it. It's an interesting story.
I pre-ordered the digital copy with the Indiegogo, but I don't know. I may be too chicken to watch it.
We'll see. They've been announcing some good casting choices. So they're putting all the hard work they can into this. They're definitely casting it, and they've been working on the script, and they've been working on making live streams on Facebook and stuff, talking about the project, trying to get more people to contribute. And so go to The Torture at Indiegogo. We're probably going to have a link in the description of the episode, so you can go there.
Yeah. So check it out. It's like, I think 14 days left, because I think the last time you posted about it on Facebook there were 15 days, which was, I think that was yesterday.
Right. Yes, yeah. I think so too. Yeah, and what's next? Oh yeah, the Hellraiser Cenobite brownies. Yeah. This was something really, really nice to find, and I found this from Christelle Van Etten's Super Ghoul website. She posted about this video. from the channel on YouTube called The Homicidal Homemaker.
Yeah.
And it's what's your pleasure? Chocolate, cinnamon? Ah, the cinnamon. The sweet, sweet cinnamon. So this is a recipe that they made for the Hellraiser Cinnabite brownies. And it's an awesome cooking show. I just love this. It was amazing to watch this.
And
did you get?
I didn't get to watch it, but you had said that they have a puzzle box pattern on the top of them, and you had said that you use a stencil that you cut out.
They do
to make that. That's what I was curious about. I probably I should have clicked on it, but yeah.
Oh my God, it looks so cool. Starting from the whole decor of their kitchen that looks like this mid-century quiche kind of thing. It's got great lighting in the kitchen. I've never seen a kitchen so well lit before. They have funny labels on things sometimes, like instead of a Coca-Cola, it's like a Ghoulish Cola or something. I have to rewatch this again, but it's so cool. They make the video. They make those delicious brownies, and they just look so nice. They use powdered sugar and the paper stencil to make the box panel designs on top of them. Mm-hmm. And it's like I just want to take an afternoon and go ahead and make this because this looks so fun to make. Yeah. And fun to eat.
Yeah. That's fun. It's nice when people are keeping Hellraiser in mind for stuff like this that's not necessarily Hellraiser related. Wouldn't otherwise be. I mean.
And so the video has a disclaimer at the end that says, "Disclaimer: the homicidal homemaker does not take any responsibility should any Cenobites be summoned."
Right. Yeah.
And in case that someone needs a vegetarian or a vegan variation, they have a version of that too, and a template for the stencil for the panels of the box, so you can print it out from their website and create the stencil yourself.
Right. You know, I could totally see that being a Marvel Hellraiser story where somebody's trying to decipher the recipe.
Yeah.
and that opens the puzzle at the end.
Yeah, that could work. That could totally work. Yeah. Man, that's really good. When she makes that stencil, it's just wow. That just looks like a panel from the box. It's a lot of work just to do some powdered sugar thing, but holy moly, does that look nice at the end? That really looks good.
All right. And Glen Hirshberg from Rolling Darkness Review. So Rolling Darkness Review is a company that Peter Atkins is part of. And he was interviewed by, was it Cthulhu something or other? Here we go.
Yeah, Rolling Darkness Review is something kind of like the show Prairie Home Companion, where they do music, they do readings, they ad-lib a little bit, they make dialogue and make jokes and stuff. So it's one of those shows that it's always entertaining to watch. And yeah, Glen Hirshberg is going to be interviewed as we record this tomorrow on the 12th. So you may be able to, I don't know if this is going to be put out in time, but he is interviewed on the Lovecraft E-Zine podcast this weekend, Sunday, August 12th.
Oh, well, so it's a podcast, so you'll be able to get it whenever.
Yeah. So the show will be live at 3 p.m. Pacific and then permanently available in their archives at Lovecraft E-Zine at libsyn.com. Okay.
There we go.
So we shared it on our page, so I'm sure tomorrow you guys will be able to listen to the interview.
And this one was almost a story, and Jose, you and I were kind of talking with somebody on Facebook about this, like right before we recorded. But there's a book for charity, a compilation book called Dark Places, Evil Faces 2. And they announced, with story by Clive Barker, and Phil and Sarah shared that also, and Phil and Sarah, and I was looking at it, and I asked him, so which Clive Barker story is it? But they didn't answer, and Rich on Facebook said he had also asked these guys on their Instagram.
Right.
And their reply was, I don't have the table of contents nearby. Which is kind of like, what? If it were me, if you don't say that. I mean, it's, say...
You can say that you're going to announce it at a later date or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or if they do know it, you wait. If they are going to share it, then you just wait until you have it and then you reply. I don't, that's kind of
yeah. Well, you can find the Dark Places Evil Faces one on Amazon, so you can get a chance to look at that and see what sort of anthology it is. They had a period for submissions. They had, I think, 20 slots for submissions by people who could just send their stories to them, and they would select 20, I believe. So that deadline for submissions was August 1st, 2018. So it seems like they're still in a very early stage for this anthology. They're probably still picking which stories are going to be part of the book. But they do have some big authors, like you said, and one of them is Clive Barker. So it says here word count should be between 5,000 to 10,000 words, although slightly shorter stories will be considered. So this is a nonprofit anthology, and all the money raised will be donated to the Rethink Mental Illness organization. So
that's good. And when I see these kinds of things, my first thought is, okay, is this a story that's never been published before? And then second, okay, barring that, is it at least a short story that's not from the Books of Blood? And that's maybe more rare and part of, maybe some old obscure anthology that's getting reprinted.
Right. That's always a possibility. Usually, I think what we can pretty much bet money on is it's going to be a story from the Books of Blood, because that's usually what these stories that they put in these anthologies are from. Because if they have a new story or a story that was obscure, they would probably just try to put it as an extra on some other like deluxe Clive Barker release or something. So it says here the genre is supposed to be horror and dark suspense, psychological / shocking / twisted, whatever that means. But says no vampires, no zombies. So I don't know if that applies to the big writers that are going to be part of this anthology. But if you take out vampires and zombies, I guess some stories from Clive Barker are not going to be considered. So we could try narrowing it down a little bit. But it seems like they will announce it at the future date. So for now, we know that there's this anthology and it's going to have one Clive Barker story in it. So we'll keep you posted.
Yeah. Still fingers crossed that it's going to be some, like Pigeon and Teresa or, one of those old ones that's harder to find. Yeah. And so if you go to our website, we have a few features on there. Rob had put up, there was one that like a trivia about Hellbound. That Peter Atkins wasn't always supposed to be the writer for Hellbound.
Right. At one point, they considered Michael McDowell. He was the Beetlejuice writer and novelist. So at one point, he was supposed to be writing the script for Hellbound Hellraiser 2. And yeah, so Rob was wondering in the article, what if McDowell had written it? He came up with some amazing stuff for Beetlejuice, especially the scenes involving Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters in the afterlife, which reminded me of Leviathan's Labyrinth. So this was posted at Bloody Disgusting, and I believe that Peter Atkins himself said something about this, didn't he? I can look that up.
He did reply to Rob on that. So yeah, I mean, go over to our website, clivebarkercast.com, and you can see Rob's little what if and Peter Atkins' response in the comments.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
then there were some behind the scenes photos also from Peter Atkins went from the filming of The Forbidden, some little snapshots, which were
some candid shots of behind the scenes fun doing The Forbidden, which of course was done in the early 70s. So you see like Peter Atkins and Clive Barker just kind of hamming it up for the camera, just opening their mouths and going like, "Ah!"
Yeah.
So, that's a funny, relaxed image.
And of course, our last episode was we concluded our series about the Marvel Hellraiser issues. We talked about the summer special and the holiday special and the poster book, and so you can check that out if you haven't heard it already. And we had David Wayne Signorino said, the poster book is the only missing piece for me for the entire series. I have issues 1 through 20 in the holiday issue and the Hellraiser companion books. So, yeah, I mean, the poster book was pretty cool. It seemed like a nice way to kind of wrap up the series.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't that easy to find, I think.
I never owned it. I was looking at an electronic copy when we were recording.
So I was just trying to see if I could find that comment that
Peter Atkins.
Yeah, Peter Atkins said, and I think I found it here. It says, Michael, this is from Rolling Darkness Review Facebook account, which it's managed by Glen, Hirshberg, and Peter Atkins. But so Peter Atkins said, Michael was actually under consideration by New World to both write and direct the movie before tragic circumstances curtailed the discussions. So, Michael McDowell. So that's interesting to know that he was supposed to be writing the script and directing the movie. And then I guess they got Peter Atkins and Tony Randell, who wanted to direct his own feature. So that's how we got our Hellbound, which is one of the best Hellraisers that, in my opinion, we have. So
and I wouldn't want to replace Hellbound, but I wouldn't mind slipping into that alternate universe to watch that version of Hellbound also.
Right. I just have a few more news items I'd like to mention here at the end.
Sure.
Fakir Musafar, one of the early proponents and founders of the modern primitives movement, passed away on August 1st at the age of 88 from lung cancer. So rest in peace, Fakir Musafar. His work, along with the magazine Piercing Fans International Quarterly, PFIQ, influenced the design of the Cenobite costumes and appearance in Hellraiser. So Jane Wildgoose, as mentioned, she was the woman who designed the Cenobite suits. She did mention that Clive Barker had given her some magazines of the Piercing Fans International Quarterly from Gauntlet Press, and that she took inspiration from the people inside with their, piercings and, chains and all that stuff that they had to create the costumes for the Cenobites. And Fakir Musafar, really big on the modern primitives movement, which also influenced the Cenobites. And a lot of people out there who do suspensions or piercings or all that stuff. So here's to Mr. Fakir Musafar.
Oh.
And then another thing I wanted to mention is that Nicholas Vince, friend of the podcast and our very own chatter, he was in a small film for Hex Studios and Hex Media, or Anthology, for We Are Many. He starred in that short film, and he's a very creepy character with a hood, holding a 300-year-old Bible. So he posted a picture of himself in the short.
Right.
Yeah. And it looks great. I mean, all the stuff that the pictures from this short, they look very, very Seventh Seal kind of thing. It looks
right.
Yeah, like there's a demon that's all painted in black, and then of course Nicholas Vince is wearing a hood. So cool stuff. Looking forward to hearing more about this movie. And today, as we record this, also there is a Liverpool Horror Festival. And Nicholas Vince is going to be there. So there's going to be music, comedy, guests, burlesque installs. I don't think this is going to come out in time for anybody to hear about it.
24 hours from now, this is coming out. So.
Right. So, but we posted it on our Facebook page, so hopefully people got to see that. And if you have any pictures with Nicholas Vince, just send them over to us. Share them with us on our podcast page for the Liverpool Horror Festival.
Coming soon, we'll be talking with Cenobium creator Ed Martinez and Nina, and we'll be talking about Galilee here in the near future, and of course we'll keep up with the news from the Reef. Yeah,
which it's going pretty well. So what do you guys think? We started. Rob has started reading his own articles and putting the little audio snippets on it. I know that stuff has been showing up on the feed as well on iTunes and stuff. So what do you guys think? Is that a good model? Do you guys have any feedback on that? Just let us know.
Yeah. I mean, it may seem like a lot, but some of these are like only 30 seconds or 1 minute long. So, you can get through them pretty quick. And, as far as like our feed and stuff, because we have stuff almost every day. But I think it's kind of nice. And there was one comment that I didn't quite understand that I just put in here in our notes here to kind of go over. But we had posted all these Daniel Sarah artwork, and some of them were the Hellraiser ones. And this person, William, he said, "I wish Clive would make a Hellraiser about Pinhead instead of everything else, with his greatest creation being a side note." So I was trying to figure out what he meant by that, and I thought maybe that merited some discussion, because it seems to me that Pinhead is the star of 10 Hellraiser movies.
Right. So what was this posted on? What story was he commenting?
It was a list of Daniel Sarah cover art.
Oh, I see. Okay. Sometimes, yeah, like, I wish he would make a Hellraiser about Pinhead. Well, he kind of did.
I guess it depends on what he means is a Hellraiser. Is a Hellraiser, is that a movie? Is that a comic book?
I think he's mentioning a movie, but it's like, if you make I would recommend to William Heddricks that he probably needs to read the Pinhead comic book series from the 90s that was published by Marvel. That gives him a lot more information about who Pinhead is and the different incarnations over the course of history.
And we have had the complaint, that on a lot of these sequels for the Hellraiser movies that Pinhead has a really short appearance. I mean, he's still sort of the star, but it's like he's only in it for the end to like preach at, whoever the bad guy is that are getting their comeuppance, or whoever the main character is, and they get their comeuppance, and he preaches at him and then takes him away. And I mean, it could be that, but he says, "I wish Clive would make a Hellraiser about Pinhead." So maybe this comment is really about, like, maybe Clive Barker should come back to Hellraiser and make it and focus more on the Pinhead character,
right?
Which would be like Scarlet Gospels.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, he could also go and read the Scarlet Gospels. I don't know if he's read that. But one of the things I do want to mention is that I don't particularly agree 100% with the part that says, instead of everything else. So he says, "I wish Clive would make a Hellraiser about Pinhead instead of everything else, with his greatest creation being a side note." So, yeah, it's true that sometimes Pinhead has become a side note in the Hellraiser movies. But if you put the focus too much on Pinhead, I don't know. Is it really something you need to know? Like I said, you can go read the Pinhead miniseries. You can read the Scarlet Gospels. That takes us pretty much inside Pinhead's head and lets us know what he wants to do and who he is and how he sees his position in hell. So, yeah, go check that out, because those are really give you a different perspective straight from Clive Barker into the character of Pinhead, or what they call him, the Hell Priest, right? He hates it. Yeah. He hates being called Pinhead.
Yeah.
So
it is an insult. But if you go too far, I mean, do we want to see the daily life of a Cenobite in hell? I mean, what is that like? It's a lot. The way it is right now, it's mysterious and creepy and stuff. But if you push in too close and follow them, too much, it would be hard to keep the same feeling.
You and I are both big Hellraiser fans, so we've seen and read and scoured every little thing about Pinhead and the Cenobites, so we know lots of stuff about the character, right? So we know, we've read the miniseries, the Pinhead comic books, we've read the Scarlet Gospels, we've seen all the Hellraiser movies, we've analyzed everything, we've seen all the comic book stories that exist with Pinhead. So for us, it's a cumulative portrait of Pinhead. He's Elliot Spencer. He was in World War I, blah, blah, blah. And even if you watch Hellbound, there's a lot of backstory to Pinhead there. So I feel like all you got to do is just put the puzzle pieces together. But it's like, it's a fun thing to do. I don't know if I would have as much fun experiencing all these little bits and pieces of Pinhead here and there if someone made an actual movie or a story where it explains beat by beat who he was, what his family was like, how he handled the war thing, how did he find the box, how did he get turned into Pinhead, what does he do in hell? I think that would be a very clinical approach that would probably destroy all the mystery and all the fun of getting to know who Pinhead is.
Like a movie called Pinhead that just followed his life and what happened to him and how he got turned.
Yeah, but ultimately is that you don't need a movie about the monster. You need a movie about someone who is being tormented by the monster.
Yeah. But that being said, that idea is a million times better than a lot of the Hellraiser sequels that we got.
Sure. I mean, it would totally be fan service. That's for sure. It'd be pure fan service. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it's like eating a whole bar of chocolate for dinner. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It would probably be like, you take the first couple of bites and you're like, oh, I love chocolate. And then you get half of it and you're like, oh no, now I really could go for a burger and fries instead of chocolate.
Yeah. That's true. That's a good point. It would be tough to watch that whole movie. Yeah.
So I understand, but I would say that William Heddricks, probably it would be a good idea for you to check out the Scarlet Gospels, and if you could find a copy of the 6-issue miniseries of Pinhead from Marvel in the early 90s, that would be a good choice. I think you'd be happy to see what they've done with Pinhead and his different incarnations through history, although the prehistoric one is kind of goofy, but right,
yeah.
What did he have? Element configuration club?
I can't remember. It was but we did a series we did an episode on that quite a while back.
Yeah, we sure did. That was fun. So I understand. It's Pinhead has become kind of a side note in the movies, but hey, the movie. I don't really consider the movies to be connected to Clive Barker stuff anymore. It's
they're not even connected to each other. I mean, a lot of those, like 5 through 10 are not connected to each other.
Right. They could take place any time, any place. And some of them were even like different scripts that had nothing to do with Hellraiser. They just kind of stuck Doug Bradley into it, and it's like, oh, now it's a Hellraiser movie. You're going to show up at the end and let them all know that it was all a dream and they're really in hell. So I know,
except for like Hellseeker, right, which has Kirsty, so it's kind of related to the first 4 Hellraiser movies by like the thinnest piece of masking or of Scotch tape,
Right. A Kirsty that in the first script draft was not even meant to be Kirsty Cotton, but then they decided, well, since you called her Kirsty, let's make her Kirsty Cotton.
Yeah, but what kind of a writer puts a Kirsty in a Hellraiser story, and it's like, oh no, not that Kirsty, is a different Kirsty.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it was his hook. Maybe he wanted to get the producers to get Ashley Lawrence, and I don't know.
Yeah, Doug Bradley fixed that, right? He was kind of responsible for saying, hey, you should just make her Kirsty Cotton then.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
So now I'm wondering about that writer of Beetlejuice that almost did the Hellraiser 2. I wonder how that would have been, because we've mentioned this before, the Hellraiser 3 that never got made, that took place in a hellish bordello with a fallen priest bringing back Pinhead from pieces of the torture pillar at the end of Hellraiser 2.
And Pinhead had that insect carapace armor.
Yeah, it was going to be it's going to be tall and lanky and have like this suit that would be almost like an armor kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, it makes you wonder about those things. Just like I think, was it Mark Frost that made a screenplay draft for Nightbreed?
Yeah.
So there's lots of weird stuff out there we'll probably never get to read or get to know.
Yeah.
But so whenever we can get our hands on that, you'll definitely hear from it here at the Clive Barker Podcast.
Yeah, there we go. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com, where we have news, features, reviews, and links to all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts and every other place you can find podcasts. Clive Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial podcast and news blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.